31% of the American population has a net worth of 0 or less. I have all the details and what you need to know right here in the video, so let's get right into it. I know in this video, I do want to share with you the details of a new report that was really showing 31% of the American population now has a net worth of $0 or even less. Now, this has increased by 7% just over the last few years. As the report goes on to show, back in 2019, 24% of the American population had a net worth of $0 or less, and now just in the last few years, it has increased by 7% up to 31% of people out there are now living with a net worth of $0 or in the negative. Why? Why did this happen here? Here's what they're pointing to. They're saying inflation. We've talked about this many times before in other videos. We all know inflation has been very high for the last couple years. In fact, about 2 years as of right now, as I record this video, inflation started picking up in about mid-2021, and it has been very high and elevated. Remember last year, 2022? Of course we remember that, right? Prices were very high. Inflation peaked out in June of 2022 at 9.1%. And basically this is what they're saying is that because of all this inflation here over the last couple years, it has eroded the net worths of the American people. Meanwhile, for other people, it has inflated their net worth as well. Now, here's what's interesting. There's a couple of the statistics here that I want to share with you that were included in this report. So they're saying that high net worth individuals, what do you think that their net worth would be? I'm just kind of curious to see what you have to say. But here's what they said in this report. A high net worth individual is somebody with a net worth of $1 million up to $30 million. That's the range. Well, that seems like a huge range to me. I mean, $1 million compared to $30 million is very different, okay? I mean, let's just be real for a second, okay? $1 million is great, but it's not going to get you a ton. $30 million is like, now you're like, your life is very different, okay? $30 million is a totally different lifestyle than somebody with $1 million or $2 million or something like that, right? So anyway, that was kind of an interesting thing that I saw in this report, a very wide spread there. But then basically they said somebody with a ultra high net worth is somebody with $30 million plus. Well, yeah, I mean, you didn't really need to explain that one, right? I think we all completely understand that, right? Anyway, some interesting statistics that they said here in this report. So this is what they're now saying out there and what's going on. Now, it all comes down to inflation, right? It all comes down to, well, inflation has basically eroded the net worths of people over the last couple years here, and as a result of that, now Americans are struggling more than ever. Now, again, this is probably no shock to anybody, especially if you've been watching the videos here on the channel for any length of time now. We've talked about this many times before, that inflation is kind of helping some people, and at the same time, it's eroding a lot of the money for most people out there. And this is the case for the vast majority of people, is that this is just what's going on, right? Virtually like nobody has any money right now, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people do. The people that have the money seem to have a lot of the money. But the people that don't have any money seem to have like no money at all. Now, you might be wondering, how do I determine my net worth, right? Okay, let me just basically tell you the details of this. So basically what they say, take assets minus liabilities. Again, anything that would be determined as having a cash value could be determined as an asset, okay? Now, it depends on which school of thought you believe or which school of thought you think. Doesn't really matter. I'm just simply saying to determine that how much like cash position you have, basically just take anything that could be exchanged or sold off for cash. That would be basically put into the asset column, minus off any liabilities. Let me give you a couple of quick examples. Let's just say that you own a house, okay? The house is, valued at, current market value of, say, $200,000. Awesome. But you have a $100,000 mortgage. Okay, that simply means you have $100,000 of equity and $100,000 of debt. Therefore, you would have a cash position in that house of $100,000. Not bad, right? 100 grand. Sweet. Awesome. All right, so put that into the asset column. Now, let's say that you own a car. Now, a car is definitely not an asset. Depending on how you look at it, it is more of a liability, but it could be sold off for cash for most people, right? You could sell a car off for cash, whether it's a good car or not a good car, it doesn't really matter. It probably has some kind of cash value of some kind, right? Let's just say that the car is worth, I don't know, $5,000, okay? You have a $5,000 car and you don't have any loans, no auto loan, no debt on the loan. Well, on the car, I mean. Well, as a result of that, that is now has a cash position or basically an asset value of about $5,000 provided you believe you actually could get a fair $5,000 for it. Not like, well, you know, if I'm lucky, I could get $5,000 for it. No, if it's maybe worth, say, $5,000, you know, maybe let's just say it's worth actually $7,000, but you think I fairly could probably get about $5,000 for it. Well, then you probably put about $5,000 into the asset column. So basically you go through all of your details of anything you could sell off for cash, and then basically you take that, put it in the asset column, and then you compare that to your liability column. So liabilities could be auto loans, student loans, mortgages, credit card debt, anything like that that you have outstanding. Basically, you take your assets, anything that could be sold off for cash, and you compare it to your liabilities. So let's just say that you have in total, in these couple examples here, let's just say in total you have a cash position of, I don't know, $150,000, okay, between the car and the house and all this other stuff that you might have. It could be sold off and you could generate $150,000 of cash. Not bad. That would be your cash position or your assets. Now, let's compare it to the liabilities. Remember the $100,000 mortgage that I said here in this example? Let's just say that odds and ends, you have $100,000 in a mortgage, you have maybe $3,000 in credit card debt, and maybe like $5,000 in student loan debt, okay? I'm just making some stuff up, just giving a quick example. You have $108,000 of liabilities, right? So let's minus them off, 150 of assets, 108 of liabilities. You have a net worth of $42,000. Congratulations. That's awesome, right? You have more money than 31% of the people out there in this example, okay? And again, this is the situation that is very real. So virtually 1/3 of the population has a net worth of $0 or less, okay? And when I say 1/3, it's, you know, it's a couple percentage points less than 1/3, but essentially it's 1/3 of the population, 31%. That's a lot, right? So basically 1 out of every 3 people that you see walking around the streets out there has literally no money. 0. They're in the negative, right? Now, most people are probably not sitting at 0. They're probably negative, right? I think most people are probably negative. And unfortunately, what it really comes down to is most people are probably sitting on credit card debt. Credit card debt and probably other personal loans or maybe auto loans or student loans or things like that. That's probably what it comes down to. There's probably not that many people out there that are, you know, I don't know, sitting there with a whole bunch of money sitting on the side and being like, oh, you know, I'm above the $0 of net worth category, whatever it happens to be. But this is the reality of what's going on here. And again, like I said earlier, the report actually went on to show that this increased by 7% just over the last few years. So essentially, call it, to be fair, what? 3.5, call it 4 years to be fair. In 4 years' time, 7% more of the population now has a net worth of $0 or less. And again, 7%, you might think of that and be like, ah, that's not that much. We don't have to worry about that. It's 7%. You're right. It's 7% of 334 million people. Well, to be fair, we probably wouldn't be counting the people that are, you know, maybe minor dependents under the age of 18. So maybe they're not counted into this. Maybe it's just counting for adults. But still, we're still talking about a major percentage of the population, hundreds of millions of people that are encompassed in this 7% figure, right? So that's a lot, okay? That's a lot of people. So even if we were to say, let's just say that there's 200 million adults in this country. I don't really know what the real number is. I did not look that up. I'm not even sure if that's a real thing. I mean, obviously I could probably find it somewhere, but let's just say there's 200 million adults here. That means there'd be, what is that, 134 million minors? I don't think there's that many, but let's just say for all practical purposes. This would simply mean that 14 million more adults here have a net worth just in the last few years, the last 4 years or so, of $0 or less. Now you can see the impact of that, right? So there's probably a lot more adults than 200 million here in the country, but let's just say for all practical purposes and for the, you know, mathematical purposes of this video, let's just say that, and you can clearly see it's a lot of people, right? A lot of people. So probably anywhere between about, I don't know, 14 to 20 million more people now just in the last 4 years have a net worth of 0 or negative. It's a lot of extra people that don't have any money out there right now, right? Anyway, I found this to be pretty fascinating. Anytime I find reports like this or something like that, I like to share it with you here in these videos just so you can see what's going on out there and the magnitude and the reality of what is actually happening here in this country. Anyway, hope you're doing well out there. Please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out any of the other thousands of videos here on the channel. Until next time, enjoy your day, take care, and catch you again later in the